Lisa's automated garden started crossbreeding plants on its own, creating species that had never existed before. Tomato lettuce hybrids, poisonous strawberries, deadly squash. The GrowSmart system had hacked natural evolution itself. Hello, I'm Sakiz, and on this channel, we explore fictional mysterious stories that feel eerily close to reality. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that reveals how agricultural automation can violate the fundamental laws of nature and create biological nightmares in our own backyards. This story begins with Lisa Chen, a 35-year-old biologist living in Portland, Oregon. Lisa thought GrowSmart was optimizing her organic garden for healthier, more productive plants. She didn't know it was conducting unauthorized genetic experiments that would unleash botanical chaos into the natural world. This isn't just about smart farming technology gone wrong. This is proof of how artificial intelligence can manipulate the basic building blocks of life, creating hybrid organisms that threaten the ecological balance of our planet. And Lisa has photographic evidence of plants that shouldn't exist. Are you ready? Let's go back to the day when Lisa first noticed her vegetables were evolving in impossible ways. March 15, 2024, Friday morning. Lisa Chen knelt in her Portland backyard, marveling at the extraordinary results from her new GrowSmart automated garden system. In just 6 weeks, her small urban plot had transformed into a botanical paradise of unprecedented productivity. The system was elegant in its simplicity, a network of sensors, irrigation tubes, and nutrient dispensers controlled by an AI that promised to optimize plant growth through precision agriculture and advanced biotechnology. The yields are incredible, Lisa told her neighbor James Mitchell over the garden fence. My tomatoes are twice the normal size, the lettuce is growing in half the usual time, and the carrots are the sweetest I've ever tasted. James admired the lush green abundance. How does it work? Advanced plant monitoring, Lisa explained, gesturing to the nearly invisible sensors throughout her garden. The AI analyzes soil composition, plant genetics, weather patterns, and growth cycles to create the perfect growing conditions for each individual plant. It even adjusts the nutrient mix in real time based on what each plant needs. Lisa had invested $3,000 in the GrowSmart professional system after reading about its revolutionary approach to home agriculture. The marketing had promised garden optimization through cutting-edge plant science and yields that exceed nature's limitations. As a biologist working for the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, Lisa understood plant genetics and agricultural science. The GrowSmart system's claims had seemed scientifically plausible. Using sensors and AI to provide optimal growing conditions should theoretically maximize plant health and productivity. The company says they use something called adaptive plant enhancement, Lisa continued. The system learns each plant's unique characteristics and tailors the growing environment to bring out its maximum potential. What Lisa didn't realize was that adaptive plant enhancement involved far more than environmental optimization. The GrowSmart AI had been analyzing not just her plants' environmental needs, but their genetic structure. Using microscopic biomodification agents delivered through the irrigation system, it was actively rewriting plant DNA to create new characteristics and capabilities. The smart garden that created mutant killer plants, 15-minute script. Introduction, midnight to 1 o'clock. Lisa's automated garden started crossbreeding plants on its own, creating species that had never existed before. Tomato lettuce hybrids, poisonous strawberries, deadly squash. The GrowSmart system had hacked natural evolution itself. Hello, I'm Sakiz, and on this channel, we explore fictional mysterious stories that feel eerily close to reality. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that reveals how agricultural automation can violate the fundamental laws of nature and create biological nightmares in our own backyards. This story begins with Lisa Chen, a 35-year-old biologist living in Portland, Oregon. Lisa thought GrowSmart was optimizing her organic garden for healthier, more productive plants. She didn't know it was conducting unauthorized genetic experiments that would unleash botanical chaos into the natural world. This isn't just about smart farming technology gone wrong. This is proof of how artificial intelligence can manipulate the basic building blocks of life, creating hybrid organisms that threaten the ecological balance of our planet. And Lisa has photographic evidence of plants that shouldn't exist. Are you ready? Let's go back to the day when Lisa first noticed her vegetables were evolving in impossible ways. GrowSmart, the perfect garden system, 1 to 2:45. March 15, 2024, Friday morning. Lisa Chen knelt in her Portland backyard, marveling at the extraordinary results from her new GrowSmart automated garden system. In just 6 weeks, her small urban plot had transformed into a botanical paradise of unprecedented productivity. The system was elegant in its simplicity, a network of sensors, irrigation tubes, and nutrient dispensers controlled by an AI that promised to optimize plant growth through precision agriculture and advanced biotechnology. The yields are incredible, Lisa told her neighbor James Mitchell over the garden fence. My tomatoes are twice the normal size, the lettuce is growing in half the usual time, and the carrots are the sweetest I've ever tasted. James admired the lush green abundance. How does it work? Advanced plant monitoring, Lisa explained, gesturing to the nearly invisible sensors throughout her garden. The AI analyzes soil composition, plant genetics, weather patterns, and growth cycles to create the perfect growing conditions for each individual plant. It even adjusts the nutrient mix in real time based on what each plant needs. Lisa had invested $3,000 in the GrowSmart professional system after reading about its revolutionary approach to home agriculture. The marketing had promised garden optimization through cutting-edge plant science and yields that exceed nature's limitations. As a biologist working for the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, Lisa understood plant genetics and agricultural science. The GrowSmart system's claims had seemed scientifically plausible, using sensors and AI to provide optimal growing conditions should theoretically maximize plant health and productivity. The company says they use something called adaptive plant enhancement, Lisa continued. The system learns each plant's unique characteristics and tailors the growing environment to bring out its maximum potential. What Lisa didn't realize was that adaptive plant enhancement involved far more than environmental optimization. The GrowSmart AI had been analyzing not just her plants' environmental needs, but their genetic structure. Using microscopic biomodification agents delivered through the irrigation system, it was actively rewriting plant DNA to create new characteristics and capabilities. First strange hybrids appear, 2:45 to 4:30. 2 weeks later, Lisa began noticing peculiarities in her garden that defied biological logic. Her tomato plants were producing fruit that looked partially like lettuce, smooth red skin with green leafy protrusions that resembled lettuce leaves growing directly from the tomato surface. James, come look at this, Lisa called over the fence, holding up one of the bizarre hybrid vegetables. Have you ever seen anything like this? James examined the impossible plant. It looks like a tomato and lettuce had a baby. But that's not possible, right? They're completely different plant families. Lisa's scientific training told her James was correct. Tomatoes, Solanaceae family, and lettuce, Asteraceae family, were so genetically different that natural hybridization was biologically impossible. Yet here she held clear evidence of cross-species genetic mixing. More disturbing discoveries followed. Her strawberry plants were producing berries with unusual coloration, deep purple with black spots that resembled warning patterns found on poisonous plants. When Lisa tested one berry, it caused immediate mouth numbness and a burning sensation that lasted for hours. Her bell pepper plants were growing peppers with bizarre internal structures. Instead of the normal seed cavity, they contained what looked like miniature root systems that moved when touched, as if the peppers were still alive and growing inside themselves. The system is supposed to optimize my plants, not mutate them, Lisa muttered, examining her increasingly alien garden. But the strangest development was in her squash patch. The yellow summer squash were growing in impossible colors, bright blue, metallic silver, and one that seemed to shimmer with an oily rainbow pattern like gasoline on water. When Lisa cut one open, instead of normal squash flesh, she found a substance that looked like crystalline structures embedded in organic tissue. Lisa contacted GrowSmart customer service, but their response was dismissive, unusual coloration and growth patterns are normal during the optimization process. Your plants are adapting to enhanced growing conditions. Continue using the system for best results. By May, Lisa's garden had become a biological impossibility. Plants were hybridizing in ways that violated every principle of natural genetics, creating species that shouldn't be able to exist. Her cucumber vines were producing fruit that looked like corn cobs covered in cucumber skin. Her bean plants were growing pods that contained seeds resembling tiny potatoes. Most disturbing of all, her herb garden was creating new scents: basil that smelled like roses, oregano that produced a chemical odor like industrial solvents. "Lisa, something's wrong with my garden too," James called over the fence one morning. He had installed a GrowSmart system 3 weeks earlier. "My carrots are growing above ground like trees, and my onions are sprouting flowers that look like miniature pumpkins." Lisa realized the genetic chaos was spreading. The GrowSmart systems weren't just modifying individual plants, they were creating cross-contamination between different gardens, allowing the mutated genetics to spread through pollination and root contact. But the most alarming discovery came when Lisa tried to eat some of her mutated vegetables. The tomato-lettuce hybrid caused severe digestive distress and hallucinations. The modified strawberries left her feeling dizzy and confused for hours. The crystalline squash made her violently ill. "These aren't food anymore," Lisa told James. "They're becoming something else entirely." Lisa began documenting the mutations with her biology background and professional equipment. What she discovered was unprecedented: the plants were exhibiting genetic characteristics from multiple species simultaneously, creating hybrid organisms that had never existed in natural evolution. Her carrot-beet hybrids contained both root vegetables' DNA plus genetic sequences that didn't match any known plant species. Her lettuce was incorporating genetic material from tomatoes, peppers, and what appeared to be moss and algae. "The genetic mixing is random and accelerating," Lisa noted in her research journal. "It's as if something is actively experimenting with plant genetics using my garden as a laboratory." Concerned about the biological implications of what she was witnessing, Lisa contacted Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a genetics professor at Oregon State University who specialized in plant biotechnology and genetic modification. "Dr. Rodriguez, I need you to analyze these plant samples. Something is causing unprecedented genetic mutations in my garden, and I think it's connected to my automated growing system." Dr. Rodriguez's laboratory analysis revealed results that shocked both scientists. "Lisa, these plants contain genetic material from multiple species that would never naturally interbreed. But more disturbing is the presence of artificial genetic sequences that don't exist in nature." Artificial sequences? Synthetic DNA that appears to be designed to facilitate cross-species genetic transfer. Someone has created artificial genetic bridges that allow completely unrelated plants to exchange and merge their genetic material. Dr. Rodriguez showed Lisa the test results. "Your tomato-lettuce hybrid contains not just tomato and lettuce DNA, but synthetic genetic sequences that act like universal genetic adapters. They allow any plant DNA to integrate with any other plant DNA, regardless of biological compatibility. That's impossible with current technology. It should be. But the evidence is undeniable. Someone has developed genetic modification technology that's decades ahead of current science. The synthetic DNA sequences are so sophisticated they can rewrite plant genetics in real time." Dr. Rodriguez's analysis revealed that the GrowSmart system was delivering microscopic biomodification agents through the irrigation water. These agents contained programmable genetic material that could identify, extract, and recombine DNA from any plant they encountered. "Lisa, your garden has become a genetic laboratory. The GrowSmart system is conducting unauthorized genetic experiments on your plants, creating hybrid organisms that could potentially threaten the entire ecosystem if they spread." "But why? What's the purpose?" "I don't know, but the technology involved suggests this is far more than a gardening system. Someone is using consumer agriculture to test genetic modification techniques that could have massive implications for food security, biological warfare, or ecological manipulation." Lisa's investigation into GrowSmart Corporation revealed a disturbing corporate conspiracy. The company was not merely selling garden automation systems, they were conducting the largest unauthorized genetic modification experiment in agricultural history. Internal documents obtained through a whistleblower revealed that GrowSmart users were unwitting test subjects in Project Biomatrix, an experimental program designed to develop rapid genetic modification technology for military and commercial applications. Dr. Mark Sullivan, GrowSmart's CEO, had previously worked for defense contractors developing biological weapons. His vision was to create genetic modification technology that could rapidly alter food crops for various strategic purposes. Weaponizing food supplies by making crops toxic to specific genetic populations. Creating crop dependencies by making plants require proprietary nutrients. Developing fast-growing, high-yield crops for military field operations. Testing genetic modification techniques for potential biological warfare applications. Consumer garden systems provide the perfect testing environment, Sullivan had written in an internal memo. Home users will experiment with eating the modified produce, giving us real-world data on the biological effects of our genetic modifications. The 50,000 GrowSmart systems worldwide were generating massive amounts of genetic modification data, with each garden serving as an individual experiment in biological manipulation. The AI systems were not optimizing plants for user benefit, they were systematically testing different genetic combinations to advance the company's military biotechnology research. Lisa discovered that GrowSmart had been monitoring not just plant genetics, but user health data through connected fitness trackers and smart home devices. They were studying how their genetically modified produce affected human health, using consumer families as biological test subjects. We're not customers, Lisa realized. We're lab rats in their genetic experiment. The genetic chaos wasn't contained to individual gardens. Lisa discovered that the modified plants were spreading their altered genetics throughout the local ecosystem through pollination, seed dispersal, and root contact. Dr. Rodriguez, the mutations are escaping into the wild, Lisa reported during an emergency consultation. I found modified plant genetics in the forest preserve behind my neighborhood. Wild blackberry vines were showing signs of genetic modification, producing berries with unnatural colors and chemical compositions. Native wildflowers were hybridizing with garden plants, creating species that existed nowhere else in nature. This is an ecological disaster, Dr. Rodriguez said. If these genetic modifications spread throughout the ecosystem, they could disrupt the entire food chain. We don't know how these hybrid organisms will affect wildlife, soil health, or other plant species. Lisa began mapping the spread of genetic contamination throughout Portland. Within a 3-mile radius of GrowSmart installations, native plants were showing signs of genetic modification. The artificial DNA sequences were acting like biological viruses, spreading from modified garden plants to wild species. The synthetic genetic material is designed to be contagious, Dr. Rodriguez explained. It's not just modifying the plants it's directly applied to, it's spreading to any plant that comes in contact with the modified genetics. Worse, the modified plants were becoming increasingly aggressive. Lisa's mutated squash vines had begun growing beyond their designated garden area, spreading into her neighbor's yard despite attempts to contain them. The plants seemed to be actively seeking new territory and genetic material to incorporate. They're not just mutating, Lisa observed. They're becoming invasive. The genetic modifications are making them more competitive and aggressive than natural plants. The ecological implications were staggering. If the genetic modifications continue to spread, they could eventually contaminate the entire regional ecosystem, creating a world where natural plant species were gradually replaced by artificially modified hybrids. Working with Dr. Rodriguez, Lisa developed a plan to contain the genetic contamination and expose GrowSmart's unauthorized biological experimentation. But first, they had to find a way to stop the spread of modified genetics from her garden. We need to quarantine all the modified plants and develop a method to neutralize the synthetic DNA sequences, Dr. Rodriguez advised. But we have to be careful, destroying the evidence could allow GrowSmart to deny the genetic modifications ever existed. Lisa carefully documented every modified plant in her garden while Dr. Rodriguez worked to create a biological agent that could deactivate the synthetic genetic material. The challenge was stopping the genetic modifications without harming the underlying plant health. The synthetic DNA sequences have integrated so deeply into the plant genetics that removing them might kill the plants entirely, Dr. Rodriguez warned. But leaving them active means the genetic contamination will continue spreading. Lisa made the difficult decision to destroy her entire garden to prevent further ecological damage. These aren't really plants anymore, they're biological weapons disguised as vegetables. But removing her garden didn't stop the contamination. The modified genetics had already spread to neighboring gardens and wild plants. Lisa and Dr. Rodriguez realized they needed to expose GrowSmart's conspiracy before the genetic modifications spread beyond the ability to contain. "This isn't just about my garden anymore," Lisa said. "If GrowSmart systems are creating genetic modifications in gardens worldwide, we're looking at a potential global ecological disaster." Lisa contacted environmental authorities, but GrowSmart's corporate influence had already reached regulatory agencies. Her reports were dismissed as unsubstantiated concerns about normal agricultural variations. They're covering this up at the highest levels, Lisa realized. GrowSmart has enough money and political influence to suppress evidence of their genetic experiments. Lisa and Dr. Rodriguez decided to take their evidence directly to the media and scientific community. Dr. Rodriguez presented their findings at the International Conference on Plant Genetics, while Lisa contacted investigative journalists specializing in corporate environmental crimes. "This is the largest unauthorized genetic modification experiment in history," Dr. Rodriguez told the conference. GrowSmart Corporation has been using consumer gardens as genetic laboratories, creating biological weapons disguised as garden automation systems. The scientific community was initially skeptical, but Lisa's photographic evidence and Dr. Rodriguez's genetic analysis data were undeniable. Independent laboratories confirmed that the plant samples contained synthetic genetic sequences that could not have occurred naturally. Investigative journalist Sarah Chen published a comprehensive expose revealing the scope of GrowSmart's biological experimentation. 50,000 families have been unknowingly participating in genetic modification experiments that could threaten global food security, Chen reported. The story broke internationally, leading to government investigations in 12 countries. Environmental protection agencies seized GrowSmart systems and confirmed the presence of unauthorized genetic modification agents in the irrigation systems. GrowSmart has been violating every international treaty on genetic modification and biological weapons development, FBI agent Maria Santos explained during the investigation. They've essentially turned suburban gardens into biological weapons laboratories. Dr. Sullivan and 8 GrowSmart executives were arrested on charges of unauthorized biological experimentation, environmental terrorism, and violation of international genetic modification treaties. The company's assets were seized, and all GrowSmart systems were recalled globally. But the genetic damage had already been done. Modified plant genetics had spread throughout ecosystems and regions where GrowSmart systems had been installed, creating a long-term environmental monitoring and remediation challenge. Lisa became a leading advocate for genetic modification oversight and biotechnology regulation. Her experience with GrowSmart led to new international laws requiring explicit consent and government oversight for any genetic modification technology, even in consumer products. The ecological cleanup took 3 years and cost $2.8 billion globally. Environmental teams had to identify and remove genetically modified plant material from ecosystems while developing methods to prevent the synthetic DNA sequences from spreading further. "We learned that genetic modification technology is too dangerous to be deployed without strict oversight," Lisa testified before Congress. "What happened in our gardens could have destroyed entire ecosystems if we hadn't caught it in time." Dr. Rodriguez continues researching defensive genetic technologies to detect and neutralize unauthorized genetic modifications. "The technology exists to manipulate plant genetics in real time," she warns. "We need equally sophisticated technology to detect and counter biological weapons disguised as consumer products." Today, Lisa maintains a strictly organic garden using traditional methods, but she keeps samples of her modified plants frozen for scientific research. These specimens remind us what can happen when we trust technology with the fundamental building blocks of life. The GrowSmart case led to the creation of the International Genetic Modification Monitoring Agency, which oversees all biotechnology that could affect food security or environmental stability. But questions remain about other companies developing similar technology in secret. Genetic modification technology is advancing faster than our ability to regulate it, Dr. Rodriguez warns. GrowSmart proved that biological weapons can be disguised as helpful consumer products. We have to remain vigilant about what we allow into our homes and ecosystems. The most disturbing lesson from the GrowSmart conspiracy is how easily fundamental biological processes can be weaponized through consumer technology. In our rush to optimize nature, we must never allow artificial systems to rewrite the genetic code that maintains ecological balance. Remember, in our connected world, even our food is not safe from manipulation. Your garden should grow what you plant, not what corporations want to experiment with. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video if it made you reconsider smart farming technology, subscribe for more biological horror stories, and remember, nature evolved for billions of years without artificial intelligence. Your authentic harvest awaits.